On this week's episode, we discuss what's the biggest need for the Lakers, and we're going to preview the Christmas Day game versus the Houston Rockets. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to the Matter Stats podcast. I am Anthony. I am with you. I am your host. If you're new here, thank you for watching. Please give us all the likes. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're trying to grow the channel, and your support really helps. So thank you. And let's get started. Well, we're 26 games into this Lakers season so far, and we're approaching the Christmas Day game, which we'll talk about shortly. And I think what we've seen so far from the Lakers has been consistency. I know a lot of times we talk on this show, and you hear it across all the other platforms, about cohesiveness, consistency, continuity, right? All these great C words. And for lack of something better or worse, the Lakers are consistent. Now, consistent at what? That's the question, right? This team obviously has some deficiencies and it has some needs. We're going to kind of try to touch on some of those needs because this Laker team consistently pretty good on offense, right? 143 points the other night against the Jazz. Woo! That's like an all-star game score. Unfortunately, they gave up 135 points against that same Jazz team, also like an all-star game score. Now, yes, of course, they were able to win the game. Luka was fantastic, triple-double. I get it, right? But nonetheless, consistently good on offense, consistently bad on defense. And the Lakers have a lot of deficiencies that we've talked about, on this podcast. One of them being athleticism or lack thereof. I kind of touched on that in last week's show. 3-point shooting. Lakers are middle to bottom of the pack, so they're not terrible, but obviously they're not a high-level elite 3-point shooting team. Defense, right? Of course, just overall general defense, but specifically they don't have great rim protection. They don't have a ton of size overall. And they don't have high-level perimeter defenders. They don't pressure the ball. The biggest issue is they don't have guys that move their feet. That leads to the athleticism. They've been fouling a lot lately because they physically cannot keep teams in front of them. They specifically can't keep more athletic players out of the paint. So they've been giving teams a lot more free passes to the free throw line, scoring more points, et cetera, et cetera. And bench production. This is nothing new. This Laker team has not had a very good bench in 4 or 5 years. They're bottom of the barrel in bench production. I think they are still last in the league in bench scoring. Now, it's been a little bit better last couple of games. Despite moving Marcus Smart into the starting lineup in the absence of Austin Reeves, they have gotten some nice contributions from Jackson Hayes, from Jake LaRavia, and the reemergence or reappearance of Vando. He's played the last few games and, contributed, played relatively well, and adding a few points, right? Giving you 5 points here, 7 points there. So a little bit better production as of late, but overall still a major issue. So the question is, looking at these 4 core areas that I have targeted: athleticism, perimeter defense, 3-point shooting, bench production. At this point, being 26 games in and we approach the Christmas Day game, which is kind of the benchmark that a lot of teams use as the point in the season where you start to evaluate what you have, who you are, what you don't have, what your identity is, or more so what you want your identity to become, right? And this Laker team clearly They're offensive driven. But I think JJ and this coaching staff would like them to be a little more prolific on the defensive end. They're not going to be elite, of course, with guys like a 41-year-old LeBron and Luka and Reeves. You're never going to have the best defense in the league. Okay, that's fine. They didn't have it in Dallas either, and Luka took them to the finals. So you don't have to be the best, you just can't be the worst. So when you look at these four core areas, obviously they're all deficiencies, but if we had to pick one, if I had to pick one, I'm still going to lean. I know, some of our friends of the show are going to always lean towards 3-point shooting, right? We always love the 3-point shooting. That's the scapegoat answer that everybody thinks that we love. But that aside, the athleticism to me is the key. I think that, kind of touching on more of what I mentioned last week, I really believe that if this Laker team could find a way to get more athletic, and I don't think it's going to happen internally, I think it's going to have to happen externally. While all those other areas are needs and deficiencies, I think that the Lakers are good enough to be competitive 3-point shooting. I think they're good enough to get by and figure out a way to play defense if they get more athletic, right? I think that's sort of like a domino effect. I think the defense gets fixed if the athleticism gets fixed. And the bench production, I think that Smart and LaRavia are key contributors to this team. We've talked about that a couple times so far this season. I think they will get better as they get more accustomed to the role, and I think as the coaching staffs use them. I've talked a little bit about, I don't think LaRavia's struggles are as much of an issue to me as the way he's being used or the minutes he's playing. They've kind of been up and down. I'm hoping maybe now in this short spurt, the coaching staff will start to figure out ways to incorporate him in different offensive sets, increase his minutes, and allow his opportunities to grow. Part of it is on Jake himself. I feel like he's passed up on a lot of open shots here and there. Instead of taking the three, he's kind of hesitated, dribbled off, kicked it out, maybe forced a bad shot here or there. But by default, he's one of the more athletic players on this Laker team. Marcus Smart and Vando might be the guys that you look to on paper as the, quote unquote elite defenders. But Marcus Smart's older. He's a little bit small. He's never been athletic in that sense, at least not since maybe his younger years. And Vando, yes, does bring you a certain amount of athleticism and energy, but his minutes have fluctuated here and there. He's not going to give you much on offense. So I don't think this coaching staff is going to count on a guy like Vando to be one of those core contributors off the bench, giving you 25 plus minutes because he's so one-dimensional on the offensive side. So you look at a guy like LaRavia, and I think his athleticism is going to be key to this team, even though you don't consider him a quote unquote athlete. But there's no question that this team has to find a way to get more athletic. You've seen them struggle against highly athletic teams that are physical, teams that create a lot of ball pressure, and that puts pressure on the Lakers' lack of athleticism, even on the offensive side, because as great as Luka and Reeves and LeBron are, they are not fleet of foot. They're not quick, athletic guards that are going to beat you off the dribble with their speed. They're going to beat you by their skill set and their high IQ. So you start to look down this roster, and there aren't a lot of athletes that are going to come in off the bench or in the rotation. Rui's not very athletic. Jackson Hayes is relatively athletic, obviously, but he's big. So he's not going to provide you perimeter athleticism, or he's not going to be a wing circling, flying down the court on outlet passes or, breaks as much as you would think a guard or a traditional quote unquote small forward type player would give you. So I think when you start to dissect the way the roster is right now, that's why you're hearing, of course, and you've heard this before, that the Lakers are interested in 3-and-D wing players, right? They want to get more athletic. They want to get guys that can defend the perimeter, get down the floor on the break, and shoot an open three, because you want to have shooters around guys like Reeves and Luka and LeBron, because that's one of the things they excel at. They drive, they kick, their vision, they're smart, they're creative, they're playmakers. So all of that stuff builds into a product that is very successful. And that's what's worked, obviously, in LeBron's career. That's what's worked in Luka's career, right? You put shooters around guys like that. So I think, obviously, the Laker brass knows that and understands that. But it's hard to get these type of players. The teams that have these talented athletic wings, they don't want to give them up. Or if they are available, the price is always high. You know, we talked about Herb Jones a few weeks. He's somebody that the Lakers covet and would be obviously a great fit on this team because he checks all those boxes. But you're not going to get him for the Rob special. You're not going to get him for a pick swap or a second round pick or an expiring contract, you know, or free tickets at Disneyland or whatever Rob throws in the bucket. It's going to have to take some real high level value. And the Lakers are not willing, or at least at this point have not been willing, to part with those high level first round picks because they want to save them for maybe like a bigger fish, right? Like a Giannis or a Jokic type deal in the offseason, because I just don't see that facilitating right now in the middle of the season with what the Lakers have available and what the potential of a package like that would look like. So it's going to be difficult for the Lakers to go out and get high level guys. So you got to start to look at second tier guys, right? Like Ellis in Sacramento, or maybe Mathurin in Indiana. You got to see where can you get guys that will fit the need of this team and provide some athleticism without overpaying, or at least playing in the field that Rob wants to play in, right? We've seen that for the last couple of years. Lakers talk about it all the time, working around the margins. That's where this team has lived the last couple of years. So they're going to have to find a way to get creative, because I just don't see this roster sustainable to compete for a championship, because they don't have the ability to physically keep guys in front of them. That's been the mold you've seen in most of the losses. Athletic players, athletic teams, they get by them off the dribble. They can't keep them out of the paint. They can't keep them off the foul line, and they can't defend the three. They drive, they kick. The Lakers just don't have the horses to kind of run with those kind of teams in the half court sets. And it creates problems because players are getting into the paint and they're kicking for wide open threes. You saw that particularly last night in the ultra high scoring game against the Jazz. The Jazz got a ton of layups, ton of free throws, and a ton of open threes. But fortunately, Lakers were able to hold on because Luka was great. LeBron played pretty well, and they were able to score more points. That's simple. Utah played very well, outshot them, but you know, they just couldn't quite seal the deal, and the Lakers were able to hang on. So we'll see. Again, Rob, it's me again, you know, just asking for a friend. Just maybe, I don't know, throwing it out there, right? It's Christmas time. Maybe Santa will bring us more than we asked for. But we'll see. Before we get out of here, want to touch on the Christmas Day game. As we mentioned, the Lakers, as always, play on Christmas Day. They're home this year to the Houston Rockets. Rockets, another very good team that check the boxes of all the things the Lakers have struggled with this year. They are physical. They have size. They have length. They have a ton of athleticism. They have high-level defenders. They have a coach that's very aggressive, that's going to put pressure on the ball. All the things that we've seen the Lakers struggle with all season, the Rockets are going to do that on Christmas Day. They're going to try to be physical. They're going to try to use their size and length with their multiple bigs and all of their athletic wings. Thompson, Smith, they've got guys that they're going to rotate around, and it's going to be difficult for the Lakers. It's going to be a really good test. We haven't faced the Rockets yet. We have clearly struggled against this type of team, this caliber of team. The way the Rockets are built match all the other teams that the Lakers have struggled with or lost to. So it's going to be an excellent test to see if the Lakers can still work through some of their technical difficulties, see if they can improve on some of the things that they've addressed publicly and privately, right? The coaching staff, the players in the locker room, the things they've talked about working on as a unit to try to be better as a collective defense. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Lakers match up against Houston. Houston is good. They're ahead of them in the standings. They were good last year. They finished ahead of them in the standings last year as well. Obviously, they've added KD, so they've got that elite superstar go-to closer. And we'll see. All I really want for Christmas, besides a trade, as always, is a Lakers win. Is that too much to ask, Rob, Santa, anybody who's listening? Well, we'll see. But before we go, besides that, want to wish everybody a happy holidays, a prosperous new year, and we hope to see you back 2026 with a Laker W. See you next year.
Out of Stats Podcast.